It is finally time. It's here, and we get to start working on these two today. I have missed you all dearly, and I am so excited to get started. Going over some things that you'll need. You will need a 36 gauge needle, some core wool, some flesh. You will need some 12 and 14 gauge wire, and some 18 gauge wire. A lot of these things are kind of self-explanatory. I will be using some cardboard, some scissors, a paintbrush, some floral tape, a cup to put some PVA glue or fabric stiffener in with some water, and some fabric glue. Today we're going to be building this fabulous couple's armature. My goal is I'm shooting for a 6-inch armature before head is added. I measure my 12 gauge wire at about 12 inches and my 14 gauge wire at about 10 inches. And then I wrap them together like so. I want to thank you all for being so excited about making the Christmas couple, of course. I leave bare spots. This will be for where the hands will be attached, and the longer part will be where the feet are going to go. Remember in the past where I have always mentioned I am not the precision type of gal. And it's okay if you're not either. I will play and manipulate this armature. I try to get the torso at about 3 inches, the arms as well at around 3.5 inches. And I just eyeball things and I kind of just tweak them as I go. I promise you, for what we are doing, you do not have to have an absolute perfect armature. I guarantee you, you'll be able to make something fabulous no matter how wonky it turns out. However, what is more important to me when I make my dolls is I strive to make a good, strong, sturdy armature, even for a doll that is going to only be about 8 inches tall, which is why I'm using the 14 and 12 gauge wire. Is that necessary? Not particularly. You can go down in gauge of wire. I generally don't start going down until I'm using to make something at about 6 inches. I just really like strong wired dolls. The type of dolls that I normally make have props, they hold things, they got things to do. I add floral tape here just as a reinforcement. We are about to start making the shoes, and I'm also cleaning up the armature, snipping off any sharp points. I will admit this method is a bit bizarre. I started doing it because I made a mistake once upon a time and I needed to fix it so I could have a standing doll, and I've kind of done it this way ever since. I promise, just, visualize, and I promise it works. There is always a method to the madness. But it's fun madness, right? And while we're talking about creative madness, I just want to give a shout out to all of you all who are joining the community and subscribing and sharing and commenting and creating all sorts of wonderful things. And it really means so much to all of us that we are doing this together. And I just love it, and it feels really good to be a part of a creative community. Thank you. Remember, I had said, just follow the vision. I promise, after 7 years of doing dolls this way, you will see that the feet will come together and it will look great. Just follow the process. Trust the process. Making the neck here, and yes, I like to make my necks longer because I make collars and shoulders to bulk out the whole doll. In many cases, it's usually close to about 2 inches. Now here, you're just going to wrap the wire down the torso to attach the neck. I add floral tape to get rid of the sharp edges and to secure, And here we are creating the hook for the hands. I do sometimes start wrapping just like the rear end and part of the torso, but not the whole body, because I still need to attach the head, the feet, the hands. I don't always attach the feet first before I do this, but while I was recording this video, I was working on 2 armatures at the same time. So one, I had actually attached the feet first, and then another one I hadn't. It doesn't really matter as long as you leave the bottom part bare so you can attach your feet later. Now we are going to make the head, and this is a detachable head, of course. So many felters make things so many different ways, and there's really not a wrong way or a right way to do things. As you can see here, we're just going to attach that wire, and you do want it to go over the shoulder and on the arm. And then of course add floral tape to secure, cut off any sharp points. There you go. Get your 18 gauge wire and split it in half, and then of course cut it. And we are going to make some mittens. It's a little bit fiddly, but it's really easy and easier than making a whole hand. That's why I like wintertime things. We get to make mittens instead of fingers. The great thing about these mittens is that your doll will be able to hold things because it's made out of wire. So when you have made your mitten, just make sure that you twist it twice after you get your shape so it will hold its shape. This is a step you don't have to do. I like to wrap my mittens with a small layer, a thin layer of core wool. And then I will later, when I'm finishing the mittens, will add the color of wool that I want on top. If you do this, just be sure not to really bulk out the core layer of wool. As you can see, I've got it really small and thin, not thick at all. This step is optional too. Mix equal parts water and PVA or fabric stiffener and apply it to the mittens and then let dry. I like to use that step because it once again helps strengthen my mittens, and I'll do it again after I add color. And now you just attach your mitten and add the floral tape. Once again, I have switched up armatures and started working on one of them. Here we are just adding the core wool, wrapping it to the leg and the foot to start filling out that leg. So like the mittens, when I am wrapping the shoe, I do not put a lot of core wool there at this point in time either. I don't like for them to be thick or bulky because when it comes to creating the shoes and the costume, I need them to not be bulky. So I will continue filling out the armature and getting the desired look that I want and the shape for the body. Adding shoulders. This is my ideal goal of my desired shape for Mr. and Mrs. Claus. One of them still has a lot of work to go, but yes, this is the shape and the look I want. Here is where that cardboard comes in, and I like to make a sole for my doll's shoes out of cardboard. I started doing this for a few reasons: to either fix measurements, to make things stronger. I've even added clay to the feet this way too. I use fabric glue to attach, and then of course set them up and let them dry. Now we are coming to where you're going to use your flesh, and we're going to wrap the head and then later of course wrap the neck. But at this point, the most important thing is to have a small head at this point and a very felted head. Very dense, felted dense. We are going to be adding tons of fiber onto this head, so I promise it will fill out. So think about your possibility of flesh tones that you want to use and start considering what type of wool you want to use for your beard or the hair. I like to use caracal and Romney often as a blend, but there's all kinds of fun little locks and, well, wool types that you can choose from. So get ready, because next video we will be doing their faces. But I also want you to consider a few other things. Start considering fabrics and felt and other embellishments, because we are going to need to use these for our clothes and our props. We will also need some other types of colored wool. So just start thinking, get your noodle cooking. And yes, we're going to make all that. The bear, the bag, the presents, the whole 9 yards. Yes. Thanks so much, and way too excited for the next video. Until then.